Schwartz, and you're listening to UCY.TV.
Keep it alive, through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch the scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursue.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio. Once again with your host Nick Bernabe here on UCY.TV. Thank you guys for tuning in, and welcome to the show. Make sure you also bookmark all the other or bookmark UCY so you can listen to all the other awesome hosts that are here on this same website or channel or radio station, whatever you want to call it. It's part of the new media paradigm. You know, we're part of this radio, internet radio stuff that's going on. Obviously, we do the website as well, but you know, we're trying to spread this platform as much as we can because, you know, as of now, we're uncensored. The FCC isn't messing with us. We don't have to answer to anybody right now, so we're able to get away with saying whatever in the hell we want. And, you know, hopefully you guys like what we have to say.
Hell yeah.
You know, and hopefully we can keep this going, man, and keep this media, this new media stuff protected and just keep moving forward with it. So make sure you guys spread the word about this show, about UCY.TV, about our website, because, you know, all we're trying to do is push this information out there and build a professional, you know, organization that is willing to challenge the status quo, and that's what we're hoping to do. Joined by my awesome co-host, DB Schwartz. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing fantastic, Nick. How are you?
Sorry about that. I'm doing pretty well as well. We're also joined here in the studio by Levon, who hosts our show on Friday nights.
Hello.
Hey, buddy.
I miss you, buddy.
So, me, Levon, and DB have known each other for a pretty long time now. We've been friends for a while, and we used to talk about this kind of stuff that we talk about on the radio show all the time in real life whenever we'd see each other at, like, I don't know, parties and places and family functions and stuff like that.
2008 is when it started. Remember, like, when me and you would talk and La Mesa, and we'd be like, dude, if they just did this bailout, that means like eventually there's going to be some shit from that. And we didn't even know what we were talking about back then, but we knew that shit was messed up.
And fortunately, we've been able to bring those conversations now to the internet. So anyone that wants to can tune in and listen whenever they want. And it's kind of, I guess it's kind of the luxury that we have as people that are seeking information, because throughout history, people have been seeking information and looking for answers and stuff like that. And of course, that's one of the reasons why they, created all these religions and all this stuff is because they were looking for answers and trying to explain things. And now, thanks to the internet, people that are searching out those same questions that our ancestors searched out 5,000 years ago can now crowdsource this information by simply going to a search engine and typing in a few words and then starting to go down their own rabbit hole, whatever it is that they're interested in looking up or studying or whatever it is. And hopefully that's how a lot of people find us, and why we're able to do this radio show is because people are seeking out this information that questions what has really been going on. Because obviously there's a lot of people in this world that are pretty unhappy with the state of affairs. You know what I'm saying? And people are tired of this economic inequality and all of this money that's spent on blowing things up and killing people. We got Marco Rubio coming out with this op-ed. I don't know if it came out today or yesterday, but where he's basically saying that it's time to extend the Patriot Act permanently.
Indefinitely, right?
Yeah, I mean, what kind of garbage is this? I mean, tomorrow we're gonna be talking about this on the anti-media, because we're gonna, individually we're gonna have to tear down every single one of these candidates. And unfortunately, the thing that's kind of really sad about this whole 2016 presidency and all this stuff, there really isn't anyone that's going to run that's an actual viable candidate that would actually do positive things, man.
Like a third-party guy. There's no legitimate third-party guy out there.
Well,
I mean, there's been murmurs of people, but I mean, I don't think people are willing, even right now, as bad as things are, to vote outside of the Democrat-Republican paradigm. We need a legitimate third party, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. If it was the craziest, most psychotic party in the world, I wouldn't care, at least as long as there's some other alternative to make people think about whatever crackpot theory there is.
Yeah, that's the thing, man, is that it's really tough for any third-party challengers to come into the mix, because the system, the electoral system, is highly monopolized by the Republicans and the Democrats, and they don't allow anybody to just come in and play ball. You got to play by their rules. So anybody that wants to be an independent, I mean, the only chance for an independent to win is by someone that's probably a billionaire that's got their own money that they're willing to spend. And unfortunately, someone that's a billionaire probably doesn't have your interest at heart. They may be a better option than Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush. What was that last guy, Ross Perot, that ran, that real rich guy, and he made a pretty big dent in the electoral votes and stuff, but he still didn't win, and he was a billionaire. You know what I mean? So it's these parties are very, very entrenched. And since the dawn of the U.S., people have been warning against these parties, but unfortunately, those warnings weren't heeded. And you got now what it looks like to me is a monopoly over the electoral system. So that's why there's organizations like Free and Equal Elections Foundation that are trying to push to get that system fixed. And, that's one of the options that people are looking at, is reform and trying to reel it back in. But then there's also people that say, you know what, that whole system is no good, and it's hard to say, where it's going to, what direction it's going to go in. We do have a caller on the line. Manny's back. We haven't heard from him in a few shows. How's it going, Manny?
Hey, I'm glad you're okay, Manny. I thought something happened to you.
Okay, I don't know if he can hear us. Oh wait, maybe that's not Manny. Is the caller from 818? Can you hear us? Okay, yeah, I think that is Manny, but he can't hear us.
Hello? No, it's,
hey, Manny, what's going on, man?
Hey, Nick, how you doing, man? Just a lot of good stuff down here in San Diego. While I'm down here, basically went to do the second border run, stuff like that. It was really good. Zapatistas, really have supported, a lot of stuff, including our Guerrero, 43 and stuff like that. And it was just a beautiful thing to see diversity. I mean, I got to see vanilla brothers and sisters, dark chocolate brothers and sisters, mocha brothers and sisters, rice, brothers and sisters, and I mean, Palestinian Zapatistas working together. I mean, I just loved it. I was really moved by that, border march and run down there in, San Isidro, down there by the border. And I really enjoyed a speech that this young lady said from Palestine, that it reminded her, it brought tears to her eyes because she got reminded of being in the border down there in the Gaza border. And she said that she saw no difference between the Mexican border and the American border because it's just basically oppressing people left and right on both sides of the border, stuff like that. So that's kind of, what's happening and stuff like that. And then, of course, we have a big event coming up on, basically on torture, the national torture, and we're doing the Balboa one on Saturday and stuff like that. So that's what's going on and stuff like that. And I love that you guys keep on talking about different issues in your show and stuff like that. So, that's where we're at.
Yeah, Manny. Thanks for all the updates, man. And that is one thing we definitely wanted to talk about tonight is this big event that's coming up on Saturday against torture everywhere. Because there's this recent CIA report that came out that was basically from the Senate. Of course, it was watered down. It was from Dianne Feinstein's office, the queen of the NSA. So, of course, it was watered down and all that stuff. But still, there was a lot of disturbing facts in these reports, and we've gotten at the anti-media. Justin King did an exclusive interview with someone. They remained anonymous, but someone who was part of a contracting group that helped do some of this torture. And what we found out was that it basically doesn't work. It basically never works. The physical torture and all that stuff just doesn't work. And the U.S. has been doing this stuff at all these sites. They call them black sites, where they're just like these prisons that are off the grid. No one knows where they're at, whether they're in Egypt or Jordan or, in other countries in the Middle East and all over the world. People are just getting, our foreign policy is just so out of control that we're like torturing people now. The U.S., who's supposed to be this beacon of human rights and all this crap, is torturing people. And unfortunately, right after this torture report came out, that was around the same time that movie, The Interview, and Sony got hacked and all that crap happened. And then this whole report got swept under the rug. And once again, it's kind of one of those things where they distract you from what's really going on, and everybody gets caught up in it. But I think it's important to address this issue because we can't allow our government to commit these crimes of torturing people. That's a war crime. I mean, you can't do that. And we're allowing these people to do it. Obama ran against it in 2008. He's saying that we can't do that kind of stuff, and then he doesn't really put a stop to it when he comes into office.
It puts the military at a horrible risk because it kind of says that the country that pioneered the Geneva Convention now decided that it didn't matter anymore. And it does matter. It totally matters because then the lines become blurred. Civilians become cannon fodder like what's going on in Syria, and don't think it couldn't happen here. As stretched thin as we are, man. We can't defend ourselves right now if somebody were to attack us in mass. So it's opening Pandora's box on us as a country that we're not condemning, and not only condemning, but getting rid of these rogue elements within the government that aren't following the Constitution, let alone even the Geneva Convention. Dude, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, man, and it's more of this do as I say, not as I do type of policy where, it's obviously illegal for any of us to torture anybody. If you tortured somebody, you'd be done. You'd be in prison. But then the government's able to go and torture, hundreds and hundreds of people, and maybe thousands. Who knows how many they've tortured. And it's like justified. They justify it. It's this morality that is not upheld at all times. They decide when they want to say torture is bad. If Assad was torturing people, I mean, believe me, it'd be headline news every day, and we'd go invade that country. And that's what they would do. But since it's our own guys doing it, well, then the military, not the military, the media doesn't bother covering it very much. And of course, as soon as it came out, it's all Distractify with the whole interview movie and Sony North Korea hack and all that theatrics that went on. And we all know that Sony wasn't the one that actually hacked, or North Korea wasn't actually the ones that hacked Sony. You know, it was the Lizard Squad or whatever. These guys that hacked Sony weren't actually from North Korea, and the media just went and like played along with this story. The FBI a day later came out and said it was North Korea. Everyone went along with it. Meanwhile, everything about this torture program just gets kind of swept under the rug, you know, and it's kind of it's one of these things where we just have to understand when there is a media frenzy like that, there's always something that they're trying to distract us from.
Yeah. They don't want people to be held accountable for that report, and the report should have led to already a lot of arrests in international tribunals, man, for war crimes. But is that going to happen? No, not yet. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe perhaps American public has to have the buildup here, and the political will has to be, you know, fomented before these guys will actually take action. We're seeing already cops are being kind of globalized, and only the sheriffs kind of remain now, and probably half of the military. You know, we always talked even years ago, Nick, about how the military will just probably get split in half. And so it really is going to come down to people going into local government and taking it back. I mean, as weird as that sounds, it may need to happen.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello? Sorry, when the NSA wants to stick it to you, man, they really stick it to you. I've been trying, you obviously guys know who I am, but I don't want to get into the gigantic amount of trouble that I've inadvertently gotten myself into, but, well, that's not the point of my call, Earlier, you were talking about that basically we're worried as hell that basically the presidency race in next year will be Jeff Bush versus Hillary Clinton. But why not look at different alternatives that are within the system? And I know Chris McKay is going to be mad as hell about this, that because, well, and I don't blame him. He doesn't believe in the system anymore because we do not place people who care about our interests within the system. Unfortunately, like you mentioned previously with Ross Perot, the only way to get in power is with cash, so you're able to have a louder mega voice.
And even that's not really a guarantee, because Ross Perot was extremely wealthy. So wealth only gets you so far. Romney was ridiculously wealthy, but he was just a mouthpiece, and people saw him for what he was. And at this point, the elections don't even matter. We just need to have more variety, more choices, so there's less power for the Fed, so there's less centralization. That's all we can really get at this point politically. Because at some point, you know, they're going to try to pull some shenanigans with cutting food or whatever. The economy crashes, and they're going to try to make a martial law scenario, and we can't allow that to happen.
Decentralization is the key, man. You know, we have to always remember that because, you know, like you were saying, this federal election, whoever wins presidency, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, will a third party win? I mean, it's highly doubtful, but is there a chance? Maybe. But as the caller, I think it's Alberto from 619 was saying, is that even Ross Perot with his billions of dollars and Mitt Romney with his millions couldn't do anything if the media isn't going to help you out. And that's one of the things that we have to remember is that the media accounts for a lot. You know, you can get a bunch of free advertising, or you can get zero free advertising. You know, what game do you want to play? And you got to be part of that system if you want to, you know, get access to that free media, that free advertising.
Pretty much in a way, the main thing is you got to find one way or another to pretty much is from the outsiders to be coming in. So pretty much the best way to defeat an enemy is not to face them head on, is to somehow, some way try to make them your friend.
We have another caller now from 760. How's it going? You're on the Anti-Media Radio. What do you want to talk about? 760, you're on the line. How's it going?
And everybody, it's Michael Buell. I'm attempting to connect this directly to a live stream and see how the audio quality is.
All right, cool. So I guess you're not going to be saying much. If you do want to say anything, feel free to chime in.
Right on, Nick.
On
Thank
what
you.
we're talking
Solidarity.
about.
Absolutely, I'm right on board.
Hi, brother.
Appreciation.
Pretty much, like I was saying back earlier, pretty much, unfortunately, like locally with Lori Sapp, when she wrote her apology, pretty much, well, on behalf of Sri Lanka, it was slightly a little of a white slap, a slap with a white glove. The fact that she had literally no clue of what the other sections of the city were going through, which was quite enlightening. That pretty much either one of two things. They either are literally are nothing but conniving psychopaths, or they're literally blind to pretty much the needs of considering Lori Sapp represents a very privileged community, and I live in a very impoverished community, which pretty much needs a lot of help.
Yeah, man. We have this other story here, and it kind of relates to what we're talking about now with the politics and electoral systems and all that stuff. And people like to think that they have a say in when their country goes to war or not. And unfortunately, I think we know that that's pretty much not the case, especially considering how many people...
They don't even need troops anymore.
Yeah, I mean, they don't need troops. They don't have to worry about casualties with all these drones and stuff. And I was talking about that last night with a friend of mine as well. But, there was a study that just came out yesterday. And it was published in the Journal of Conflict Resolution. And basically what it's saying is that these guys actually did a study, and they found out that the superpowers actually do overthrow countries for oil and resources. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it kind of backs up a lot of what we've been talking about for a long time, in a lot of these conflicts, whether we talk about Syria, Ukraine, Iraq, it's all about resources and stuff. And we've been saying this for a long time. But there's finally a study out that actually reinforces it. And among a few of the findings, I got a few bullet points here I just want to get to. The more oil a country has, the more likely a third party will intervene in their civil war. So this study basically looked at like civil wars that go on, and they looked at the civil wars and said, okay, well, where do other countries intervene in civil wars? And they found out that almost always it's where there's a country that has a bunch of oil, or in Afghanistan's case, a bunch of resources.
That's why Nigeria is exactly why they are right now.
Yeah, and then the research found that a third-party country was more likely to intervene if they were a major power, if the rebels were strong and well-armed, if there were close ethnic ties between the two countries, and or the Civil War took place during the Cold War, a period of global competition between superpowers. So, there was a higher frequency during the Cold War of the U.S. going in and overthrowing like a bunch of stuff. But that period seems to be coming back now, because now if you look at the recent interventions that we've done, you got Iraq in 01, in 03, you got Afghanistan back in 02, I believe it was. Now we're going back into Iraq. We went through Libya. We tried to go through Syria, Ukraine, a bunch of other countries in that region, in the oil-producing regions. And this study kind of just backs up a lot of what people already thought. It's stuff that we already knew, but it's nice to finally be able to say, yeah, there's a study that proves it too. And I think that's basically what this is, because it's not really new information. But one point that I did want to make is that they talked here a little bit about ISIS as well in this study. And they were basically saying that ISIS, you remember Obama had that famous quote where he was like, oh yeah, the Islamic State is like the JV basketball team or whatever. He was basically saying, yeah, these guys are nothing. And then a few months later, they almost captured the oil-producing hub in northern Iraq, in Kurdistan. I think the city's called Erbil. they almost captured Erbil. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, ISIS, they're doing these horrible things and we got to stop them. And this study kind of made a reference to that as well. And they kind of said, well, that's what happened is that at first ISIS didn't really matter because it was just a little civil war. And, yeah, people were dying. The government didn't really care. But then they started threatening the oil producing region. And then all of a sudden.
Pipeline. They threatened that pipeline, Nick. Remember, they were going to build the pipeline up through Turkey, and now they've taken over that territory, and they're throwing contractors against them, just like they're throwing contractors against the Russian rebels. But the problem is, man, when you fight for a paycheck instead of your country, you just don't have the same will, man. So they're not winning at all. They're getting their asses whooped.
Definitely, and also pretty much. Unfortunately, these elites are very narrow-minded people. It's pretty much if they knew about, like in the case of Facebook back in '03, no one would have known that it would grow as gigantic as it is today. If I had some cash to invest in a business, pretty much I would invest it in Uber. Pretty much if the stock market crashes, I know perfectly well Uber's gonna be okay because for obvious reasons. Uber and Lyft are putting the taxi cab industry in bankruptcy. And also, speaking of elections, pretty much, at the national level, yeah, we're screwed basically. But at the local level, we might have a little bit of a win, of a fighting chance per se. Pretty much, knowing how to apply political pressure on our local representatives.
Yeah, local's the way to go, and yeah, I don't know what exactly you were getting at, but I think Uber and Lyft and all that stuff is awesome. I just started using Uber a few months ago, and
it's the cottage economy, Nick. Because now with the internet enabling us to basically take credit cards on the fly and all that good stuff, we can do anything, man. Like if you have a 3D printer, you could roll down to Seaport Village and start sculpting stuff, paint it right there on the boardwalk, sell it to people, get their credit card transaction. I mean, the possibilities are endless, but people need to be willing to just go out and get the microloan online, because there's a lot of people with millions of dollars right now that would rather give microloans to entrepreneurs. And you can do it. You just need to go get it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think it's like it's the future of the economy, and we gotta start, leaving this old oil-based economy behind. We gotta leave it in the dust. And we see how volatile oil is, and these crazy price swings and all that stuff. And not only that, but it pollutes the planet and it messes the ecosystem up and all that. I mean, who knows what it does to the climate and all that stuff. And I mean, just think of it like this: if you sit in the garage with your car running for a few hours, I mean, it'll kill you. So, I mean, the planet is only so big, the atmosphere is only so big, we can only pump so much of this stuff in there. And, the worst part of the whole oil economy is the petrodollar, and the petrodollar drives a lot of this foreign policy, a lot of this overthrowing of governments, funding civil wars, everything this study was talking about. They didn't mention the petrodollar, but obviously if all these, if we're going to all these countries over oil, obviously the petrodollar is, sitting right behind it, making sure that all this stuff happens.
Yeah, definitely. And pretty much, speaking of World War III per se, I know these elitist bastards are willing, if this thing goes nuclear, pretty much, I know perfectly well without a doubt that they are willing to pretty much not just go nuclear, but willing to shift, pretty much inadvertently shift the electromagnetic field of the planet, aka literally turn the north of the planet into the west, which would cause the incredible damage to the entire planet. To such a point they are that much money grubbing those psychopaths.
Yeah, man, and that's why we got to break away from this system. And again, it goes back to this idea of decentralization. And it's
instead of saving your money at a bank, do it at a credit union. To take down this whale one bite at a time.
Yeah, and of course, all this stuff is very cyclical. It always happens to every empire. Every country has these cycles where you go up, you go down, recession, depression, revolution. All this stuff, and sooner or later, people need to, we need to find out exactly, what is a better way of doing things, because right now it's I don't know, it's messed up. And it seems like a lot of these guys at the top, I don't know, like, a lot of people have questions about this next story that we're going to talk about here. But now we have 39 bankers dead in the last 13 months. Third one this year. And so people are wondering, like, what's going on? Like, why are these guys dying? And like a good, like, I don't know, 3/4, 75% of these stories are suicides. And then there's these crazy, deaths where this guy killed himself with a nail gun and stuff like that. But now you got this the most recent one, Chris Van Egan. He's a guy from the Netherlands, and he worked for ABN AMRO Bank. And I don't know. What do you guys make of this? 39 bankers dead in 13 months. Why are these guys committing suicide, or are they really committing suicide? What do you guys think?
They either know why.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Either one of two things. They know something that by March the economy is going to crash once more, and pretty much we might as well start getting ready for it. Or, like I said, the real World War III has already begun, and it's not the United States versus Russia. To make it loud and clear, it's the Freemasons versus Skull and Bones. They already tried to kill Joe Biden. They tried to kill Joe Biden twice. They killed this celebrity from Massachusetts, and we know it's false flags because who they truly want to go after is Elizabeth Warren.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know about this Freemasons and Skull and Bones and stuff.
No, actually, he's totally spot on, because if you think about it, there were two sects of the Illuminati pre-1939, the Bavarian and the Anglo-Saxon. And it's not like the Bavarian died. They came over in paperclip. So those fools and all their descendants are fighting the Anglo-Saxon for control of the whole world right now.
Sorry.
Okay,
who's trying? Hold on, Alberto. You got to give. Who's at? Who else was trying to talk there? 760. I don't know. We're gonna have to.
Don't worry. I think someone's struggling behind the line.
We're gonna have to 760. If you can mute your microphone, that way we can make sure we. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the whole Freemason thing and all that. I honestly think that they're just a bunch of frat boys that think they do stuff, but they don't. But, the reality is that, yes, there is a infrastructure behind the scenes, a hierarchy that basically only a few people are able to populate this place in society. And a lot of these bankers are part of these 39 bankers that have recently died, many of which by suicide, populate that same, part of society that exists. And it begs me to ask the question is, why are these guys, taking their own lives? I mean, are they guilty? Do they feel bad? Are they just depressed because they're rich? Or do they know that they've done something really badly or done something really wrong?
They just get suicided like Crowley did right here in Apple Valley, dude. Like, as long as if you upset the apple cart, you're going to get crushed by it. It's as simple as that. It's a refined art now. Like, it's been since JFK, and they can get anybody they want at any time.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't doubt that. So this Crowley guy you're talking about, is that the guy from that Gray State movie?
Exactly. And there's no way a guy like that is gonna take himself out with his wife and his kid. Like, maybe himself, maybe he gets depressed or whatever, and maybe himself, or maybe somebody comes to him and says, if you don't take yourself out, we'll kill your wife and kid. I don't see him doing that, man. The guy was putting it out there, to try to warn us of what's on the horizon. It's not like what he's putting out there is far-fetched. It's a mission creep. The police were getting militarized for whatever. Either we were going to get invaded or the economy was going to collapse or whatever. And now they're already armed. And that's why they're putting this bill out there, because who cares if they don't get armed anymore? They're already armed.
You're talking about the bill to demilitarize?
Yeah, it's going to pass. That's going to pass the same day that they pass the bank's legal right to confiscate your money because it's now their money. I don't know if you've heard of these two things piggybacking each other.
No, I haven't heard of it yet.
Yeah, so it's going to be a rider. So they're going to go ahead and make a concession that the police can't get armed anymore with military equipment, while in the same time, they're going to say all of these funds in the bank are really the property of the bank. We're just allowing you to hold them here.
Wow, man. I mean, this bill that I saw, I think it was, I'm trying to remember what state it was out of, but they were basically kind of like nullifying these federal laws that have to do with 1033 program and all that stuff. But, another story that kind of caught my attention today, and this one is on the anti-media, and we republished it from countercurrentnews.com, is about this CIA whistleblower named Jeffrey Sterling. And I don't know if you guys heard this story, but to me, it kind of gives us a insight into the way that the CIA works and what this is all surrounding. And I'm sure plenty of people heard about it. Is the fact that the CIA was trying to set up the Iranian nuclear program with faulty nuclear weapons or parts that were faulty or whatever, and basically they were trying to feed them equipment that was going to make them waste a bunch of time and a bunch of resources. And this guy kind of spotted, or he was part of this program, or he worked within it, or whatever, and he tried to blow the whistle on it a while back, years ago, and he was basically trying to say, hey, something's wrong. This isn't right. We shouldn't be doing this. It's like, dude, you work for the CIA. Of course you're going to be doing wrong stuff. But once again, it's that that naive thought when you get in. A lot of people that join the CIA probably think they're doing a righteous mission and they're doing the right thing. But unfortunately, this guy went in there. Yeah, he went in there and he didn't want to stand by and watch all these horrible things take place. So he went to his superiors, tried to tell them. They didn't want to listen. They didn't change anything. So then he went public and he gave it to this guy named James Risen, I believe, from the Washington Post or one of these corporate media websites. But the guy the journalist, released the information and he did a good job. And then the journalist also refused to give up his sources. And that was also a controversy because that guy was being threatened with jail time, the journalist, because he didn't want to give up his sources. And it's kind of funny, all these people after the whole terror attack in France talking about freedom of speech, and everyone's like, yeah, we support that and stuff. But, at the same time, we've got our own people. I mean, just to give a few examples, Edward Snowden, Chelsea Manning, now this guy, Jeffrey Sterling, all these whistleblowers that should be protected, that are just trying to get the truth out there, they're being thrown in prison. This guy was just convicted of basically all the charges that were against him. So he's going to rot in prison for probably a really long time. But it's just it's so hypocritical, man.
Okay, let me sorry for interrupting once again. If you want to work pretty much finding justice or arresting real criminals, if you live in the United States, join the FBI instead. Don't join the NSA. Don't join the CIA. Join the FBI instead. Or if you're outside the United States, go to France and work for Interpol. I don't know. Those are my 2 cents for the moment.
I don't know.
Maybe the sheriffs.
I don't know about the FBI, man. The FBI is pretty much just as shady as any other one of these groups. But to me, making this connection here to the FBI, all these terror attacks where the FBI sets up these young kids to, they basically give them the plans, they give them the idea, they supply them with the weapons, the money, and all that stuff. Like that kid that was recently that was planning on attacking Washington, D.C. and all that stuff. And, if we come to find out that it's like the FBI's own concocted terror attack. And to me, what went on with this whistleblower and what went on between the CIA and Iran, Russia was involved because they were using the Russian scientists as an intermediary between the CIA and Iran, is that this CIA operation was basically just a giant form of what the FBI has been doing to all these unsuspecting kids, but when they make them seem like they're terrorists. You know, they're supplying Iran with all this bogus stuff just to later on say, "Oh, look, Iran has all this stuff." But it's like, dude, you guys are the ones selling it to them. What the hell are you talking about? You know, and this same ideology, the same way of law enforcement, whatever you want to call it, foreign policy. It seems like the government uses it in a very scalable type of way. They do it on the small scale with the FBI, setting up a guy with a couple sticks of dynamite, acting like he's going to go blow up a building. And then they do it all the way up to giving people bogus nuclear parts and trying to frame them up. I mean, this is just a kind of a snapshot into the insecure government the insecure empire that we're living under.
Hello?
Yeah, so I'm guessing that's an A-OK, Nick, right?
Yeah, we're good.
I don't know why there's a girl laughing in the back. That sounds like a horror movie for a moment.
What'd you say?
Yeah, no, I know. I heard a girl laughing in the background.
Oh, yeah, that's Lavon. She's here in the studio with us today.
Lavon, I need to hear some insight from you if you're going to be in studio.
Yeah, no, she's working on something else actually. So she can't even hear what we're saying right now. So
okay. Let me just get another 2 cents in. Pretty much, I know pretty much what there's. Remember the movie of Before Vendetta? That there was some sort of the St. Mary's virus, etc. I think they want to make the modern day equivalent with the measles outbreak, and pretty much I think, and I know why people are thinking twice why they rather not get vaccines because of possible mercury poisoning, which might cause autism. I just wish that there were more medical research done on it, so we can either confirm.
It's really quite simple. Like in Europe, they don't have these problems and they don't use GMO.
This measles outbreak is crazy, and it's causing a huge stir between the whole anti-vax and vax crowd and all that stuff. And it's just a few cases of measles, man. I don't think it's like that big of a deal. But it definitely is. It definitely is being used as a type of divide and conquer thing, just like the American Sniper was. But, there's, of course, propaganda on all sides of it. Now, let's move on to this next story here, because this one is crazy. And I don't think we mentioned this last show, but just in the last week and a half, there's been 2 teenage girls killed by the police, man. And it brings us back to this whole police state issue. That we've obviously been talking about for a long time, and sometimes it seems like it's repetitive, but we've got to talk about this because, as we've noted before, the police are basically the face of the state, and that's why they take so much heat, because they are the interaction with the state that we always face, and it's one of these things that every day in the streets or when you're driving or whatever, there's a chance that you have to interact with these cops. Now, why did they kill this 16-year-old girl in Denver named Jessica Hernandez? Well, according to the reports that came out a few days ago when the story first broke, they were saying that she ran over a cop or tried to hit a cop with her car, and then the cop basically shot at her out of self-defense. But as of right now, a witness came forward earlier today, and so far it's the only witness that has come forward, and it was basically saying that that's not actually the case. What actually happened is the cop shot her, and then once she got shot, she lost control of the car and then hit the cop. So I don't know exactly what to think of this, but the fact of the matter is that...
But does that make it any better?
No, it doesn't. And the fact of the matter is that a 17-year-old girl shouldn't be getting shot by the police at all. And this isn't the only one. There was another case that happened in another state where another teenage girl was, gunned down by the cops. And the other one was in Texas, and it was another 17-year-old girl. And I I mean, it just begs, it makes me ask the question of when are we going to have enough? When are we finally going to be tired enough of the cops gunning people down with little to no consequence before something actually changes? Because as of right now, I mean, there hasn't been any big reforms that have gone on within the state of policing in America. The only thing that has changed is maybe the amount of people that are questioning the police violence and the amount of people that understand now that it's a bad thing, thanks to everything that happened in Ferguson. Unfortunately, it took something as horrible as that to happen for people to, on a widespread scale, start to actually question it. But we haven't really seen any reforms. And it just kind of goes to show that the government is so far behind the people that they don't act on what the people feel until years down the line. And I get it that in a republic, in certain ways, that you want the system to work that way, but that would be only the case if we were living in a republic, and we all know that isn't the case anymore. So those ideas aren't really valid at this point in time. So on to
the cyberocracy, where we vote on our phone and everything, and it's just a completely naked democracy. And as horrible as that tyranny of the majority will be, I have faith in the common man to make a better decision for my life than these oligarchs would.
Yeah, exactly. And we've talked about this before, and we all know that direct democracy is always going to be a threat to individual liberty and stuff. But you want to talk about a real threat to individual liberty? You hit it right on the head, man. Oligarchy, fascism, authoritarianism. That is a true threat to individual liberty, because it's being handed down by just a handful of people.
And they really, really despise the underclass. They think of them as leeches, even though the people at the very top are the ultimate of parasites when they don't really contribute to the economy anymore and live off dividends. And not only that, but then they basically make all of Wall Street and all of investment speculative, with a derivative market of $300 trillion that now is on our back, Nick. I mean, these bills are going down because they know that eventually the economy is going to implode, and they don't want to be left on the hook, and they're going to say, hey, we signed all these bills, you guys didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, man, and of course the politicians are always going to look for ways to blame everybody else, and that's one of the things I think we're going to see big in 2016 is you remember back in 2008 where Obama was able to blame Bush for everything, and then Obama was going to fix everything, and Obama didn't do shit. And then, in 2016, obviously we saw it in 2012, but in 2016 it's going to be worse because the media is going to be, in my opinion, the media is going to be on the Republican side because they want to elect a Republican president. And then they're going to just blame everything on Obama, and it's going to be the same old two-step that we always see. And unfortunately, I mean, what's going to happen is a bunch of people on the right are going to all of a sudden be government bootlickers, and they're just going to agree with everything that the next Bush does. I don't care what president is elected. It's going to be just like Bush. And I mean, this theater will continue on if we allow this whole charade to be played out the way that it's shaping up to be. And if you look now at the media attention and stuff, obviously Hillary Clinton's, like, everyone's talking about Hillary Clinton. She's obviously going to be the Democratic nominee, even though she's unelectable. And this is all going to take place, I mean, conveniently for the Republican candidate, whoever he may be, to win.
It just doesn't matter anymore with the voting machines, Nick, because they're hacked. They're going to pick whoever. They're just going to make it whoever's got more, less resistance to them.
Yeah, there was a documentary, I can't remember what it was called, that I watched on those voting machines, man, and like those things make a lot of mistakes. And we saw in the last midterm elections that there were plenty of stories from all over the country where the voting machines weren't registering the votes right, and so back to what you were saying with like the idea of bit Congress and electronic voting systems that are actually transparent and like decentralized. I mean, if we're gonna continue to live in a voting society, I mean that's the way we have to go because otherwise there's just no transparency. And that documentary I saw showed that those machines could just be hacked like easily. Anybody.
I mean, they have been. It's pretty obvious, right?
Yeah, I mean, the last real big one was the whole George Bush Al Gore thing, in Florida and all that stuff, and the people that were actually taking part in counting the votes are like super shady and all that, and they came out in that same documentary that I'm talking about. So yeah, I mean the voting system, the entire the whole thing, the way that it's run, these lifetime politicians that are in there forever, a bunch of old guys, and the fact that we just keep changing party to party and then it's just the same old thing over and over again. I mean it's completely done. And that whole federal idea is like, I don't know. I think it's played out. It's been tried so many times in all these different countries. I mean, almost all the countries in the world right now are quote unquote republics. And the same scenario keeps playing out, and are we going to get tired of it sooner or later? Hopefully, because otherwise we're going to be stuck with this, this oligarchy. But sooner or later, we gotta come to our wits about it. That's the only way that we can really address this police state, this growing problem with cops killing people like crazy, and that's the only way around it. So we got this next story, and I mean, it's like they never stop. Government messing up again. The U.S. is set to spend $95 million a day for 10 years to update the nuclear arsenal. And I mean, this number—that's
some scary shit, dude.
It's number
we have right now.
I know, and it sounds like this number is just pulled out of thin air, but they're going to put aside $348 billion for the next 10 years to update the nuclear arsenal.
To what?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean, I don't ever want to see a war where nuclear weapons have to be used, because the other thing we have to keep in mind is that the ones they got now, these hydrogen bombs, they're a lot bigger than what we used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And think about how many people died in those countries, and the stuff we have now are hundreds of times bigger.
Well, they're different too because they're neutron, and they don't leave any fallout. So they just kind of microwave everybody around, and they leave even the buildings intact. And basically anything organic just gets microwaved.
Yeah, and that's not the kind of war that we should be fighting. And first of all, we shouldn't be fighting any wars. We definitely shouldn't be fighting them in that way, because it's just a mass killing on a huge scale. And I mean, I think it's just ridiculous that we're going to spend this much money on nuclear weapons when everyone knows that nobody should be even using them anymore, and everyone knows that we should be getting rid of all the nuclear weapons. But I mean, this is the sick and twisted side of the government, which is basically all sides of it. But it's just showing itself for what it is, and all this is just warmongering and positioning, and probably has to do with the whole Russia-U.S. rift and all that stuff. So, I mean...
Well, Russia declared their ICBMs unhittable and said no matter how good our missile shield is, we can never hit them because they're going at, I don't know, some insane speed where they can hit anywhere in the world in 30 minutes. And... the response from us was we can hit anywhere in the world in 5 minutes. And I mean, it's getting to the point where what kind of technology are we talking about? Are we talking about some giant laser beam on a satellite up there that can hit anything and decimate it? I mean, these fools bring out the big guns to depop, and that's just insane. We got to keep up pressure to not be any way they can get away with actually fighting. And even these proxy wars, they need to be stopped. If people realize that American Sniper is just an excuse for you to keep driving a car on gas that we haven't needed to use for, 100 years, I mean, the world would be a way different place, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to one of the main points I wanted to make is that, if we can move away from the petrodollar, move away from the oil and all that stuff, it'd be better for all of us because think about it, that's their monopoly on making the world turn, and that's how they leverage everybody. That's why wars are fought. Goes back to that study, which is on Science Daily. It's going to be on the Anti-Media tomorrow. We're doing a really big story on it, so make sure you guys look out for that because this thing is going to be pretty big. And as far as I know, we're going to be one of the first people to really try to push it out there because this study just came out yesterday. So this is one of the things I'm really excited for this week is shedding some light on this foreign policy stuff because people don't like to talk about foreign policy. And as you said earlier, DB, about the new wars where we don't have Americans dying. I mean, that's huge. It brings a whole new side of the psychology of war and getting the public behind it, because the public isn't going to really be opposed to a war where no Americans are going to die. Yeah, we might kill a bunch of bad guys or whoever is being sold to us as the bad guy at that point in time.
As long as no body bags come home. And you know what's the crazy thing, Nick, is that's been going on since the advent of the military-industrial complex. For instance, World War II, a lot of people say, Russia, they took the brunt of it, right? They took millions upon millions of deaths, and that's true. But India got a huge conscription army through the British Empire, and they had to suffer 2 million casualties, man. I mean, that pushed the brink in Northern Africa. And people have to understand, it's not necessarily going to be American soldiers, although they will too die, although now it'll be a lot of contractors. But people somewhere are going to bear the brunt of our policy as long as it remains our policy to be an empire when, honestly, if we're going to go one world government, let's make it an organic government. Let's decentralize it, and let's make us a one world people. I mean, if we can get to that point, there we go.
What we need is a no world government. That's what we need, man, is to move away from the whole thinking that we have to have a government to bear down over us. And just go more of like the decentralized route, right? Is just, local control. You live in a place, people that live around there decide what goes on in that place, and that's about it. I mean, we can't have these huge agreements, these huge kind of transnational agreements like the TPP. We had a caller a few shows back that called and talked about that. That kind of just supersedes all local control, and that's what the federal government does. That's what these trade deals do. That's what anybody that's seeking power is trying to do. They're trying to gain an upper hand over top of you, and most of those guys end up trying to turn a profit out of it, and that's.
We need a LTP.
What would that be?
Like a local trade program.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. But I mean, how do we get to that point? I mean, it goes back to one of the things that we talk about on this show all the time, and it's just participatory revolution. Just getting into the doing it in your personal life. A lot of the stuff we talk about, breaking away from the system. Whether, I don't know, man. I mean, I think it'd be cool to like start. Just get like one solar panel and then just start getting another one whenever you can, like whenever you can afford it, and save up to get them. And then eventually you have all your electricity. Yeah.
I mean, it could start somewhere where land was cheap and we can get solar panels pretty cheap. And yeah, you're right, man. Like, I mean, somebody could buy land, somebody could buy panels, kickstart it up for, I don't know, maybe double what they invested in it, and then buy more panels and kick back those as dividends to the original shareholders, and then, cut it in some percentage wise. Yeah, it could work.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. That's the Anti-Media Radio for Wednesday night, January 28th. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Thank you, guys.
Hey.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.